job. Focus on making it up, not on what happened. Let's go. Sorry for driving into the wall. Hell yeah,
boys! Welcome in to another episode of Historic Hot Laps. Here we are post-race Kansas. Got a few things to cover on that, up to everybody's expectations or, things like that. We'll check all that out. BC 39 at Indy. Whole bunch of stuff going on. So let's kick it off with a little bit of news, rumors, things of that nature, like we usually do at the top of the show. First and foremost, obviously, hurricane relief efforts are in full force. Tons of areas got just hammered. Just want to send out any thoughts to those people dealing with that. If you can, do anything you can to donate. Red Cross is what they're saying is helping the most for those people, and the situations they're all in. Obviously, that's a big racing community, very supportive of the sport, a lot of history and everything else going into that. So keep all those people in your thoughts. If you can do anything to help, please reach out to the Red Cross over there. And yeah, just a terrible situation, but Mother Nature does what Mother Nature's going to do. So our thoughts go out to everybody over there, and hopefully the rebuilding will commence quickly and everybody's lives can get back to normal to whatever state that might be. So. All right, first thing on the news docket, Formula One. Obviously, there's been some talk in the news about Daniel Ricciardo maybe not finishing out the season. Red Bull did confirm this post-Singapore. Daniel Ricciardo is out at Red Bull, and Liam Lawson's going to come in to finish the rest of the season. It's kind of one of those tough deals because, Daniel Ricciardo's been a staple at so many different teams in that paddock for so long. He's got the best personality of probably anybody in Formula One on the driver lineup side of things. Just unfortunate to see. He was asked about maybe coming to Indycar like a lot of the other Formula One drivers have in the past, and he said Formula One and IndyCar are too different. He's still a little bit scared of the IndyCar side of things. Thinks those drivers are a little crazy. So I don't know what the crossover there is, from the viewpoints, because some of them think it's no problem, some of them think it's crazy. But either way, hopefully Daniel Ricciardo lands somewhere, maybe sports car series, something like that. Be nice to see him still on the track somewhere. So the other thing, Formula One rumor is that Sergio Perez will be announcing his retirement after the Mexico Grand Prix. No confirmation, so I guess we'll just wait that out and see. But that's the rumor mill, and the same rumor mill had the Daniel Ricciardo news, and that became true. So maybe Serge is done. I guess we'll see after that. That'd be another hit to that team. So yeah, it'd be interesting if that is a true and not just a rumor thing. Moving over to IMSA news, we talked earlier in the year about the GTP class and Wayne Taylor Racing and Andretti splitting their ties. Well, it sounds like it's kind of come back around. They're going to run Lamborghini IMSA GTD class together. So that'll be interesting. At least they'll still see Wayne Taylor Racing with Andretti Global with Lamborghini in the GTD class. So depending on their driver lineup with that would be a pretty wild one to see. I feel like that'll go a long ways for them. Probably have some great success 2025 in the GTD class. So the other piece of IMSA news we had, so last, 2 weeks ago, 6-hour battle of the bricks at Indy. Post-race inspection handed out penalties to Team Penske Porsche and Wayne Taylor Racing with Acura for post-race inspection failures. Didn't seem to affect the overall results of anything. A couple financial things, but nothing that's going to affect the championship run going into the next race there. Moving over to IndyCar news, we'll start out with the Indy Next Series. A1 Motorsports has signed Miles Rowe to drive 2025 season. See, Miles Rowe ran a little bit here and there in NXT this last year. USF 2000 champ from 2023. So has a good thing going for him. Should be pretty awesome to watch that one. A1 Motorsports, obviously a very strong championship contending team in the NXT series. This next one's kind of a big one. We talked about what's going on with drivers at Ed Carpenter Racing. Rinus VeeKay was out. Turns out they did announce their driver lineup. Number 21 car will be the return of Christian Rasmussen, which is kind of shocking to go into that car of all. That's kind of been primarily the stronger of the two cars, but it feels like ECR is trying to do a full reset. Number 20 car, multi-year deal. kind of what we predicted as seats started to fill, but Alexander Rossi. So we now know where Rossi's going to end up. He's going to be in ECR's number 20 car. Going to be interesting. Obviously, this came after there was the day before they had announced, I guess 2 days prior, they had announced that they were now co-owned with Ted Gilove from Heartland Food Products, which Indiana-based company. They make Splenda, Java House coffee products, stuff like that. A lot of money coming in. Supposedly the numbers has been kind of hard to really see all the financials on it, but supposedly the numbers are something like $40 million over the next 2 years for the co-ownership side of things coming in. Obviously the charters had a lot to play with that because now we've got, something tangible, tangible asset, if you will, for a race team rather than just parts and pieces. That alone, that's 2 full-time entries for 2 years, right? That covers all that cost. So now they've got all that extra money, could obviously get Rossi for multi-years. He did talk about it on his podcast, speculated, they said more than 2 years. And I said, okay, 3. And he said, I didn't say 3. So it's probably a 4 to 5 year deal for Rossi. I know at McLaren, they were arguing over a couple $1 million on salary for a 1 year stake. So who knows how much Rossi's salary really is in this deal, but let's assume that he's probably in for a couple $1 million a year. Through his contract, which is great for him, great for the sport, keep him in it. I know he's kind of a loved or hated driver. I'm personally on the side, I really like Rossi. But either way, this is kind of a full reset for ECR and the team, so we'll see how it all pans out for him. I don't suspect they'll be an overnight success, but maybe the latter half of the 2025 season we'll start to see some full stride. There is a test in Indy next week. Rossi's going to be in the car for Ed and go, do some laps, kind of shake things down and see where they can improve. So that is a test for all teams. It's not just a personal deal. So all teams will be there with one car entry. A lot of it's hybrid work. Try to get the hybrid for the 500 figured out since that still hasn't been done. The other thing with Ed Carpenter Racing is the only thing Ed's going to race in is the number 33 entry in the Indy 500. So that being said, that should be better overall than the random ins and outs that he was doing before. Moving on from that, Alex Palou is going to be in a GT3 car for the first time during the Indy 8-hour race. He's going to drive the Mercedes AMG for Lone Star Racing. So that'll be good to see him on the track. He's also going to be on the track with Connor Daly, who's going to be at that Random Vandal BMW car that he ran before. A couple of cool things to see for the upcoming race at Indy in the GT3 class. So it sounds like we've got a new race coming in 2026. It's been announced that they're going to put together a Dallas street race. This is more going to be an Arlington street race because it's supposed to be around Jerry Jones's complex and the Cowboy Stadium. And what do they got? They got the Rangers Stadium there and all that. So I don't know. I've got mixed feelings about it. It's good to see new races coming into the series. I'm pretty big advocate for Texas Motor Speedway. I get it. The money wasn't there. Texas Motor Speedway didn't really care if Indycar was there. Turnout wasn't good. We're talking couldn't fill up the main section of the grandstands. So obviously people in that area didn't want to drive 30 minutes to Texas Motor Speedway. Are they going to want to deal with coming out to Arlington and watching them drive around a parking lot? It's hard to say. Street race packages you can kind of combine with other things, other events. They promote better. We saw that with the first year in Nashville, and obviously that fell into the Nashville Speedway this last year, which that's construction related and stuff, but I don't know. We'll see. 2026 is a good timeline for it, here in the off season before 2025. So we've got a year and a half to really put it. It's going to have to be early in the season. It's going to be too hot, right? We're talking Texas. And it's going to have to be daytime if it's going to be a street race. I doubt we're going to do any kind of night street race there. So yeah, it's going to have to be early in the season. It'd be maybe St. Pete and then over to Texas, maybe swap season openers. I don't know. We'll see. St. Pete's been the season opener for a bit. I don't feel like it's going anywhere. So yeah, we'll see what happens with all that. Another giant piece of news in the IndyCar world and motorsports in general. Michael Andretti has stepped down as controlling owner of Andretti Global. Details are still a bit murky on that. There was some statements made, but obviously Dan Tauris jumped into Andretti Autosport at the time, now Andretti Global, in 2019, had an ownership stake in the team then, and through COVID and all that, came in with Zach Veach in the Group 1001 sponsorship, took a love to the motorsport side of things, and now he has taken the controlling ownership over. Michael Andretti's still going to be a part of it. Mario's still a part of it on a different level. So with Michael still being a part of the whole thing, we're looking at what aspect is he going to be a part of, right? Is this going to help them try to get their foot in the door at Formula One, where he can, travel a little bit more? He's not tied down to the daily operations of the IndyCar team during the race season. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it all pans out. Here's the statement that Andretti Global made about everything after this came out on Sportico originally. Michael's goal has been to transition to a more strategic role with Andretti Global and focus less on the operational side of the race team. Michael and Dan Tauris have been working closely on developing this new structure, one which Michael is excited to see take shape under Dan's guidance. Michael remains engaged and will continue to serve as a strategic advisor and key ambassador. We'll have more to share in the coming weeks after Michael and Dan have had an opportunity to speak to the team. So that's got to be a kick, right? Like, the team hasn't even fully been aware of the situation and talked to anybody, but it's out in the news. So I don't know. Interesting. We'll see how it all shakes out for that in the upcoming weeks. Jumping over to NASCAR news. Not a whole lot. A couple little things. One kind of crazy one. FedEx has announced they will be downsizing their partnership with JGR and Denny Hamlin in the number 11 car. This is pretty wild because we're talking 20 years or so of sponsorship with Denny Hamlin and his team. Ends a career-long ride of a main sponsor. It's kind of like an end of an era type deal. Here's what Denny had to say about it.
It's been a fantastic partnership that we've had, nearly 20 years. They're the ones that really took a risk on me when I was just running the Xfinity Series about 5th to 8th every week. And J.D. Gibbs said that this is the move we want to make and put him in there. So they're the ones that really took a risk. And so certainly that risk paid off for many, many years. And I couldn't be happier to be aligned with FedEx. And certainly I've got to do a lot of great things with them off the track as well. We've rebuilt houses, done some things with Salvation Army, Team Rubicon, some great things. And certainly they're a company that is giving back to their local communities unlike any other. When COVID happened, getting important medical supplies to hospitals and whatnot that needed it. So it's certainly a relationship that it's made my career. It's made it a lot easier being aligned with someone for that long. And we're going to continue to represent them on and off the racetrack for a time to come. So certainly feel happy about that relationship, and certainly it happened because of Joe Gibbs and his relationship, but certainly been very proud to represent that company.
So obviously, kind of a sad thing to see. They're still going to be around, just going to downsize. You're not going to have a full sponsorship car all the time, maybe once in a while. They haven't really laid out the specifics of how involved they're going to be, but it is what it is. And that's part of racing. Sponsorships will come and go and things will change, but that's definitely one of the longest running ones out there in the current field. Looks like Hailie Deegan found something to race this season. She's going to be in the upcoming Nitrocross race at Salt Lake City. She lost that number 15 ride at AM Racing in the Xfinity Series earlier this year. She's been kind of bouncing around. She's been in a few IndyCar races. She's been racing midgets here, local midgets, North Carolina and stuff like that. So what's it going to be from this? Nitrocross is kind of a exhibition type deal. It's not, there's a full season of it to a point, but it's not something that's in her caliber of racing. Connor Daly did him a while back. I think he's got one more to do this year too. There's a lot of rumor that she'll be jumping over into an NXT ride, an IndyCar, open wheel type deal. So, which if she's racing midgets now, it could be a pretty easy crossover. So we'll see how that all pans out. But she will be in that Nitrocross race in Salt Lake. Last little bit for NASCAR stuff. Ty Dillon is signed for Kaulig Racing in 2025. He's going to run that number 10 car, so we'll see him in Cup again, which he's had a pretty good round of luck lately. He's been doing some good things, so hopefully he can keep some good momentum going into Kaulig. I know they've had a lot of rough situations with that number 10 car over the years. It seems to maybe have a little bit of a curse to it, but hopefully Ty Dillon can break that. All right, let's move on to some race recaps. Not an incredibly busy race weekend, but we did have a few things going on. Big stuff. Let's start with USAC. We had the BC 39 at IMS. So Thursday night, you had qualifiers for midgets, and we'll talk about, they had a sprint exhibition as well. We'll talk about that. So going in, it was going to be like a full weekend schedule. Obviously, we've got hurricanes the weather still pushes into the Midwest a little bit. So weather did affect Friday and Saturday night races, but Thursday night qualifier, Chase McDermott gets the win in the feature for the qualifier. You've got 2 days off basically. You run a doubleheader for features and everything like that. On Sunday night, when the weather gave him a break, oddly enough, it started to rain right after the race was finished, so they got it in at the right amount of time. The team over at IMS did a great job at getting things done and trying to upkeep on everybody and all the fans and the track. Per usual, they do a great job over there at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So going into the Sunday night final, after basically what was a doubleheader, Cannon McIntosh gets the win, gets to kiss the bricks. It's pretty cool having that dirt track at IMS. They've still got, bricks on the wall. Obviously, it's a dirt track, but the wall has bricks from the original track on it. Everything's incorporated into the brickyard, so it's super cool. But congrats to Cannon on what he was able to accomplish there. Watching midgets at IMS is always exciting.
I'm at a loss for words. I'm so grateful right now to be standing here. I got to thank the Lord above. I'm just grateful to be in this position. I'm thankful that Keith Coons Motorsports believed in me, and Gear Wrench, Toyota, Mobile One, all these amazing people that have believed in me to get me here. We've been so close to winning here, even on prelim nights, and just haven't got it done. I knew I was good enough there. It was hard to get a rhythm with all the holes and, finding your way. And then when someone got a good run on the outside, I had to move around a little bit. But, I just stayed patient. I knew I had the car to do it. I knew I was good down there. I didn't want to move. And then the opportunity presented itself, and he messed up coming to the white. I didn't know it was the white until he messed up and I seen it. I thought about driving it down there and chopping his nose, but I just stuck to the line I had. He went in and drifted in front of me and just waited patiently and drove back under him and protected in a 3. But, I'm so thankful to do this in honor of Brian, who was a legend of our sport and a hero. To do this in his name. With Tim here, it's a really, really cool feeling to be able to do this, and I'm just so grateful to be able to race here.
So moving over to USAC Sprints, Thursday night, Stoops Invitational. It was basically an invitational for the 10 best cars and drivers to drive the dirt at IMS. Pretty exciting to see, and feature goes to CJ Leary. So congrats to CJ. This is the first time that sprint cars have been on that dirt track because it's a pretty small course, but not a usual stop for everybody. But congrats to CJ Leary getting the win there.
Man, pretty special. I didn't know if we knew how to win anymore. It's been a long time. We put a lot of effort into this. Honestly, when they redrew the 8, we were back there contemplating on not even running, but we came out here to put on a show for the fans, and we had a really good race car. This thing was dialed in. Last time this car ran was at Kokomo during Sprint Week, and it ended pretty poorly, and I didn't like it that night. So I think my opinion's changed a little bit. It's obviously pretty good, so maybe we'll take this one to the Berg.
And hopefully this will be something they do more often, bring in the sprint cars to IMS. Moving over to NASCAR Regional, Martinsville had the Valley Star 300, which was late model stock race. It was a pretty awesome race, honestly. Obviously, Martinsville's a sweet track. You get the grandfather clock if you get the win, and JR Motorsports knew what to do. They won there a bunch. Carson Quapple gets the win for JR Motorsports, driving that Bass Pro Shop late model. So congrats to him on that one. Pretty exciting. These late model races are getting so good lately. I don't know if it's because we're getting so stagnant on the next gen era car and stuff in NASCAR, but late models are where it's at lately. So congrats to him on that.
It's awesome. I mean, obviously this is the crown jewel late model stock racing. Everybody, 75, 80 people came this year to try to win that clock, and that's obviously the most car count out of any race we get out of the year. And it's just such a big deal. This race is so prestigious. It's been going on for so long that so many great racers have won it, and to be able to add my name to that list is it hasn't sunk in yet, but it's awesome. I can't thank all my crew enough. Brian Schaefer, all the guys that are wrenching on it week in and week out, and just can't thank Johnny Morris Bass Pro Shops Chevrolet enough for the opportunity to run the car.
Moving over to Kansas Motor Speedway, NASCAR weekend, you had all the all the different formulas there. Let's start out with ARCA. This one was pretty exciting to watch. Had several tire wear issues, a lot of contacts, a lot of rubbing. Overall, Tanner Gray gets the win. We've seen Connor Zilic just dominate the first part of his ARCA career, obviously moving over into Xfinity next year, but he was still top 5. I believe he was 4th place. He's getting ovals figured out slowly, but surely he'll get them. It's the biggest thing for him is he gets so far out there most of the time that he loses pace with the fields because he gets hung up in traffic and then gets caught up in other people's mistakes, much like he did at Bristol. But yeah, so Tanner Gray gets the win. Don't want to take anything away from him. Congrats to that. Moving over to the truck series, this one I was pretty excited about because Connor Daly was running that Nice Motorsports number 44 polka dot sponsor, pink truck, pink Chevrolet. Pretty exciting to watch Connor running in the truck series. Obviously, he's the super sub. He can do anything. He ends up with a super early penalty, like lap 1, gets out of formation on the start, has to do a drive-through, ends up going a lap down right out of the gate, but he made up some ground. Cover that here in a second. Stage 1, the Ty Majeski gets the win there. That's his 6th stage win of the season. Stage 2, Corey Heim gets that one. Very important playoff points there. And there was a pretty clean race overall. The only real caution for contact was caused by a weird, Corey Day of sprint car fame. He ends up doing a kind of a hook out of nowhere, tangled up a couple trucks, but it ended the day for Raja Karuth and Corey Day. Majeski was leading the race, takes it to the white flag, and runs out of fuel. There was a couple other trucks on the same strategy running out of fuel. So Corey Heim's able to get past him there on the last couple corners and gets the win. Connor Daly ended up getting 18th and I believe he was back on the lead lap, so he did a pretty good job making up ground and staying in the top half of the field for his truck race. I believe he's got one more truck race at Homestead, so we'll get to see that polka dot machine one more time. Thank you, Nice Motorsports, for letting him do his thing there. Pretty awesome to see. So let's talk playoffs. The truck race was a cutoff race for playoffs going from the round of 12 to the round of 8. So those that were cut from the round of 12 going into 8 were Daniel Dye, Ben Rhodes, Lane Riggs, and Tanner Gray. So your current round of 8, as it sits now, you've got Corey Heim in first position, Christian Eckes, Ty Majeski, Nick Sanchez. That final 4, or that top 4, is probably going to be your final 4, let's be honest. That's the strongest trucks in the field right now. So going into the second half of the 8, you got Raja Karuth, Tyler Ankrum, Grant Enfinger, and Taylor Gray. So that's where we're at. Playoffs for the truck series. Moving over to Xfinity. The Xfinity race was all right. It was to be expected. Kansas race and Xfinity. Couple good battles throughout the race. Stage 1, Eric Amarola gets that win. Stage 2, Sam Mayer gets that win. Good important stage points there for the playoffs. There was, going into the end of it, there was a good hard battle with Cole Custer and Eric Amarola. They traded spots, constantly trying to do slides, cutting under, all kinds of stuff. But at the end of the day, Eric Amarola was able to hold him off and get the win.
Really patient. I obviously wasn't patient earlier in the race. I'm wore out. That was a long day, or a hard day at the office, especially for a guy who's been sitting on the couch. Yeah, I just overdrove. I knew we had such a great He Gets Us Toyota GR Supra. I was able to get by everybody on the long run, and I just pushed too hard there when we had the issue on pit road, and I got in the fence and cut the right rear tire down. So I knew I had to put my head down and go to work after that. We got lucky to get the caution when we did, and then we were out of tires. So the fact that it went green there to the end, and that's where we were strong. We were really strong on the long run. Yeah, it just worked out. I want to thank God. First and foremost, this is such an awesome opportunity to do this with Coach. Thank you so much again. I know I say it over and over. I sound like a broken record, but this is so much fun to come and race these cars for Joe Gibbs Racing. Everybody at Toyota, the GR Supras are fast as the Xfinity Internet. And just really hats off to Seth and Ziggy, Chance, Greg, Joey, Giggles back at the shop. Everybody, all the guys, all the pit crew guys, they have been fast with this group, and just Victory Lane has eluded them. So I've told them all week, I'm like, man, I'd love nothing more than to share a beer with you guys in Victory Lane and go get our picture made. So And I got a really good friend of mine, George, who's been with me through thick and thin with Smithfield, and he lives here in Kansas City. And I told him, I was like, man, I hope you come to the race. I've got a good feeling about it. So going to celebrate with him and Janice in Victory Lane. Hi to the kids. They're back home with my mom. Love you guys. And we're going to celebrate this one.
There was a whole lot of drama post-race. Cole Custer was very upset with Chandler. They made a bunch of back and forth. So we'll cover that real quick here. Here's what Custer had to say about the whole incident.
I was outside and you just put me in the fence. So really frustrating with that. I can't say enough about our car and NXT and CW and all our guys. I mean, I think we could be really easily gone back to back if things just fall right. But we'll keep moving on, and I'm sure we have really good points buffer now, so we just got to keep chugging along. No, just the track position. You know, him doing that just made me get into dirty air, and then trying to, get back by him just hurt my tires up. But now I think we would have been able to hold the 20 off if we didn't have to do that. But I understand it's hard racing, but I don't race like that, so I don't expect to get raced like that. But now that he races me like that, I race him like that.
Moving into the Cup race. The Cup race was just a good standard race. It didn't have to, it doesn't have to be crazy all the time. It was a good race. Going into it, we saw that the Hendrick cars were pretty fast. They always are at Kansas. Starting out, stage 1, William Byron gets the win. That stage win there, super important points. Stage 2 goes to Alex Bowman. Going hand in hand with the Chevrolets being fast at Kansas, the win goes to Ross Chastain. So non-playoff driver spoils it once again. Pretty cool to see. It keeps things exciting. William Byron was doing all he could to make up the ground and pass him, taking the low line. He should be safe because he comes in second. So William Byron walks away with the most points out of that race, any playoff driver could get. Puts him in a good spot. Blaney comes in fourth, makes it a good day for his playoff positions as well. We get to see the watermelon smash from Ross Chastain, which is the first one we've seen this season, so that's good to see there. Hendrick cars were super fast. Larson's race right out of the gate got caught up in some debris, cuts a tire. Tire goes down early in stage 1, has to come in, get it fixed. Obviously, the underbody of the car's not aerodynamically sound at that point. They end up making a couple extra stops through the race, try to get the car back. They still ended up mid-pack, still got some decent points, but not a great day for Larson and the team over there. But yeah, overall, Kansas was a good race. It wasn't a photo finish deal like it was last time. It was pretty clear how it all worked out. Ross Chastain did the longest burnout celebration of the season so far, I think. But, he's excited, got to do the watermelon smash and all that. So congrats to that team. Congrats to Trackhouse getting a win this season, securing some stuff. And that wraps up the race recaps. All right, covering the history portion of this episode. This one's not going to be quite as long as some of the others, but an important driver, important figure in motorsports nonetheless. Today we're going to talk about Joe Dawson. We're going back a ways on this one. Joe Dawson, born July 17th, 1889, and passing on June 17th, 1946. It was pretty wild to be a race car driver in the early 1900s. There was so much competition. Everything was brand new, right? It wasn't spec cars or anything like that. Everything was literally an invention and brand new. Zero safety features for drivers. Spectators were in danger of watching. Anybody working on the car could be in danger. Just a whole lot of craziness that could happen back in the day. So the excitement of auto racing really brought Joe Dawson, that adrenaline kick he needed to get into motorsports. Getting into it, in 1910, you had the ACA and the AAA, then they got together and they made what was called the Motor Cup Holding Company. And with that, they wanted to combine the American Grand Prix and the Vanderbilt Cup race on Long Island. However, they ended up canceling the GP due to the lack of interest from the European market, and same for the Vanderbilt race. They still ran the Vanderbilt race, but there was a lack of interest. And a lot of this was safety concerns, things that were happening. You're talking the time when you had some war conflicts going and things like that. So he joined at a very, very volatile time to get into auto racing, but he did pretty well with the time that he had. So during that Vanderbilt Cup race, it was a very dangerous race. A lot of people died during this race. Dawson was firsthand for some of that. He he came into the race and he drove the yellow Marmon, came in for a late pit stop, and he was visibly upset, and the crew didn't really know what to do. They finished the pit stop. He's just sitting there, tears running down his face. They didn't have helmets or that, just goggles, and nobody really knew what to do with him and what was going on. And Dawson ended up saying that he thought he had killed a man out on a course, that had been a riding mechanic that came out of a car. They finally, this is taking a lot of time. They find out that he didn't actually kill him. The whole situation was a little weird and a little murky, and we're talking 1910, right? So we don't really know. But once he kind of realized that he didn't take a man's life on the racetrack, he kind of snapped out of it, kept driving, and ended up working his way back up and finishing second. So he probably would have won that race had he not sat there in an emotional state, which I get. I mean, you don't know what's going on out there, and this is back in the day when the communications weren't there, the safety wasn't there. So that race was pretty wild. There was 4 people overall that were killed, 22 were seriously injured, and that was the last time they ever ran that race due to the safety concerns. So he was part of the most dangerous race of the time, might be in history when you talk about overall. Moving on from that, same season, November 1910, he won what was called the Savannah Trophy, which was the 300 cubic inch class trophy. He entered the Indianapolis 500 in 1911. That was the race that Ray Haroon won. And Joe Dawson, he put up a pretty good fight in that Marmon car, and he ended up getting 5th place recorded in 1911. Also in 1911, they had Savannah Cup Challenge, and Dawson was in a horrible crash, and he was injured to the point where he couldn't race the rest of the year. He returned to racing next year. He was 22 years old, and he became the youngest driver to ever win the Indianapolis 500, which is a record that was held until 1952. So 40 years he held that record. So we're talking 22 years old, wins the Indianapolis 500, youngest driver. He raced a couple more after that, which he had not as much success. There was some controversy in the 1913 Indy 500 for Dawson. So back then they'd have some relief drivers and things like that. And Don Herr was his relief driver, and he drove from laps 108 to 144. And then Dawson ended up climbing back in and finishing it. The event kind of holds a weird record. Ralph Mumford took 8 hours and 53 minutes to finish 10th place. Rumor has it he was told he wouldn't get paid unless he finished 200 laps. So he made his 200 laps, but he drove real slow, driving around, stopped all over the place, had a lunch at one point, all kinds of stuff. So moving on to 1914, that was Dawson's final Indy 500 race. He went out, was doing his thing, got caught up in an accident on lap 44 and was not able to finish. And then after that, he kind of bowed out from there. He returned in 1928 to drive the pace car for that 1928 Indy 500, which was a Marmon 8 as they called it. And then later Dawson ended up working for the American Automobile Association, the AAA, as we know it, when they were holding in races up until the mid-50s. He became a supervisor for them, and he was doing a track inspection for an upcoming race when he died of a heart attack in 1948. So not a super long career, but definitely memorable, being one of the guys that was there for the first one and a couple more after that. So looking at his career, Champ Car career, he had 2 wins and 9 podiums. His Indianapolis 500 results were pretty solid. He had 3 starts, right? We talked about 12, 13, and 14. He won 1912, and he had 2 top 5s in 13 and 14, which back then just finishing the race was a feat alone. So you could still be a top 5 and not necessarily get all 500 miles. That was the era back then. That was the time. So he was awarded into the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum in 1976. And they've got a nice little bio about him here. I'll read to you. So this is from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum. It says, Joe Dawson is remembered best for winning the 1912 Indianapolis 500 in a National Motor Vehicle Company car, only 22 at the time. He was actually on loan to a National Motor Vehicle Company from Nordic in Marmon, which had withdrawn from racing after winning the 1911 Indianapolis 500 with Ray Haroon and the Marmon Wasp. Dawson, who had finished 5th with a stock Marmon in the 1911 race, was also an engineer with the firm, as were several members of his family, including his father. He began racing under Haroon's leadership in 1910 and won the 200-mile Wheeler Shebler Trophy race at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on July 4th, 1910. Later in that year, he finished second in the Vanderbilt Cup race on Long Island, New York. Other than for several record runs for the Chalmers Company, he retired from competition after a serious accident in the 1914 Indianapolis 500. Later moving to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in a management role for Marmon, he became a highly respected motor racing official who was appointed to the American Automobile Association Contest Board and served as the Eastern States Supervisor until his death on June 18, 1946. So there we have it. That's Joe Dawson in a bottle, basically. Quick little rundown. Obviously, very respected individual of the sport. That Marmon Company dominated the Indianapolis 500 for the first few years. They did mention 1911 in that, so somewhere the stats with his 3 starts are off, unless maybe his, 1911, 1912, 1913, but he wrecked in 1914, so maybe they're not counting his 1913 as a start, even though I believe he should be counted. So 3 or 4 Indy 500s, that apparently remains a mystery based on the bios that we've read. But either way, definitely the winner of the 1912 at the age of 22 years old. So pretty wild. I don't see anybody topping that anytime soon. It happened again in the 50s, but it's pretty wild to see. So thank you, Joe Dawson, for all that you've done and the dedication to motorsports. And for everyone else, make sure you share with your friends, like, subscribe, follow us on YouTube, follow us on X, leave a comment. You can always hit us up at historichotlapse@gmail.com. All of these things, the social media interweb world, hit us up. Until next time, stay safe and thanks for tuning in.
Thank you for sharing your time with us. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Don't forget to follow us at Historic Hot Laps on X and all your other social platforms for the latest updates and sneak peeks into upcoming episodes. You can reach out to us directly at historichotlapse@gmail.com. Send us your feedback, questions, comments, opinions, and additional subject matter you'd like us to cover. Thanks for tuning in.